everybody. Welcome to another episode of Family DynamiKs with a K. Our mother, Mary Killmond, is here again with us. Hi, Mom.
Hello.
Along with...
Ed.
And Katherine. And I don't think you said it was Liz.
Well, it's Liz doing the intro.
Hello. It's Liz and
was that
Katherine.
Liz?
Yeah, it's Liz. And that was Katherine saying it's Liz.
And that was Ed interrupting Katherine and Liz.
Perfect.
Could
And
you guys get your act together?
This is the act.
This is it, Mom.
Anyone
This
else
is,
here? Anyone else here? Anyone?
Anyone?
No, John is not here.
Okay, good.
John is here. So, Mom, we're going to pick back up where we left off, or try to follow that trail of how Mary Killmond, at the time Couture, came to California.
Yeah, we got a lot of good stories that we didn't know. I mean, that's why it took a whole episode before we even got to California.
Well, this is interesting because I've had people more recently start to discover our podcast and ask why we're doing our podcast. And this goes back to a group discussion we had internally about wanting to understand our family history, definitely get more of your history down some way. And this podcast became almost like, let's do an oral history of our family.
Right.
And like I said, I came up with the name Family DynamiKs because everyone's got one. But the last episode, when I went home and was telling my husband, Mark, about it, I said, so my great-grandfather, there's abandonment, possibly bigamy. And Mark goes, you thought my side was white trash. And I said, oh, son of a... so annoyed because I was like, wow, yeah, actually it was incredible stories. And we didn't even get out of Boston, right, Mom?
Nope.
So,
Well, we're going to try and get out of Boston in this episode.
and why
for sure.
you were getting out of Boston is because your brother, Peter, who's a younger brother, was having a lot of
Health issues.
And your mother, Evelyn, said, Joe, who was your father, you got to earn more money. And he basically took a job as a salesman for aftermarket car parts to sell them nationally versus more just in
A local kind of thing.
Right. So that's where we kind of left off.
Well, part of how we got completely tangled and didn't quite make it out to
Boston.
California yet was the person that was in California was, and this is where it got tangled, a great aunt. Mm-hmm. Yes, so a great aunt, not an aunt like her mom's mom, which would be our great aunts, but her great aunt. So she had a lone person in California forging the way for their family
to go west.
Right.
Got it.
Which then we were like, wait, who was that? Unravel that entire thing.
Well, she had nothing to do with our move. Her name was Aunt Jo. It did come to me just now.
Joe, as like a Josephine?
Yeah,
Oh,
probably.
okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah. And,
Was your brother Joseph named after her, do you think?
oh, no.
Your older brother? No. Okay, all right.
Nothing to do with that.
Okay.
Anyway, I think it's very appropriate that you're calling it getting out of Boston. Because my dad was second to youngest of 13 children.
Right.
3 of whom died when they were in their infancy. So we had hordes of relatives on his side of the family. And my mother had a lot of relatives. But my dad's family was so big, and his older brothers and sisters who got married had huge families, and they had to rent a hall for us to have a Christmas get-together.
Oh, wow.
For the Coutures.
Yes. And we, as kids, we were running all around and, packs of little kids. I didn't even know what their names were.
Oh, my gosh.
They were cousins. But
Well, I will say when we get together, my son does need a refresher occasionally.
Yeah,
It's like, which
sure.
cousin? Who's going to be here? Yeah.
Yes, and we're much more tame than they were.
Yeah.
And they were really wild people. They were really a lot of fun and knew how to party. And they also had their problems. And I think really what happened was my dad's company was based in California, in Venice. At the time, Venice was...
Venice Beach?
Yes.
Wow.
Was
Yeah.
really a dump.
Was it
Oh.
like,
It was. I mean, it's fabulous property, so it's come up. But it
there
was not
there was
nice
a lot
in
of
those
there was
days.
a lot of race cars back in Southern California back in those days. So
okay.
Venice actually had a racetrack.
What?
I didn't know that.
Oh,
what
wow.
did that have to do with me? I was 10 when we moved.
Nothing, but your dad sells, car part
Car
accessories.
industry.
So that
Yeah,
makes
car
sense.
industry.
But his territory was the entire country and Canada,
Oh, wow. That's like
think
North America.
North America. And he was brilliant.
Most sales reps today get like 2 cities. I mean, that's insane.
So he started with just a regional place, company in the East. But when he moved to California and it started with this company, they were all over the place. And they were the first people who had come up with this hydraulic lift idea. And so my dad saw a way out of this immense family that was just...
Was it overwhelming to him then, do you think?
I think it just was a pain in the ass because he was successful and not everybody was. And they were crazy, and he wasn't really feeling like he was crazy. That's to be debated. But, he
was less crazy.
Yeah, so it was just a way to get out of town, get out of Dodge. As a matter of fact, somebody, I don't know who it was now, it's beyond me, built a model Conestoga wagon. And,
like a wagon train kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. And it had, model horses and the whole thing. And they did wooden impressions of what we looked like, with photos pasted on them. And they made this fabulous centerpiece at the farewell party. Everybody thought it was just wonderful that we were doing this.
How big was it?
Well,
Huge.
Centerpiece.
About the size of this table.
Well, that's not helpful for people listening, but pretty big is what you're saying.
Yeah, everybody,
about
just
6
whatever
feet.
table
Well,
you're
it's
at,
funny.
it was that sized.
6
It's funny.
feet.
You did say centerpiece, but until you said centerpiece, I was like, is this life size? Somebody built like a covered wagon? What is happening? Okay, but
So you're going west. And
So, of course, we don't know anything about any of this. And
So
they
you're
did-
10 years old.
I'm 10 years old. And, of course, nobody consulted us about anything ever.
oh, well, no. Of course
And
not.
so here we were. I had turned 10 in April. We came out and we were in Salt Lake City on the 4th of July. So we took a 2 or 3 week trip across the country.
Oh, wow.
Just driving trip. It was fabulous. We went to Yellowstone Park. That was one of the big highlights as far as I was concerned. I don't know where else we went, but we were stopping at roadside diners, I mean, my father was very adventurous. So anyway.
And he had he already established his get back in the kitchen and bossing people around on the road, or not?
Bossing
That was
people
later.
around was just normal for him, period.
Okay.
I mean, he'd go on the road for 6 or 8 weeks.
Right.
My mother was not a micromanager. As a matter of fact, she was laissez-faire. And
Sort of let things be however they are.
yeah,
Easygoing in that
whatever.
sense.
I remember they had me taking my younger brother and
To the
sister
park.
at 2 years old, twins who were capable of dismantling the universe. And there I was. And I was in charge of them. I certainly thought I was up to it. Anyway, so he'd come home from one of these trips, just to give you an idea about him bossing people around. And he'd check our drawers to see if our drawers were in order.
Oh, right. You had said that he was very particular, even though he wasn't there. So,
Decorum required. That
Okay, so you're on the road.
So we had
Did you have a house or a destination you knew you were going?
He had gone ahead and bought a house.
Oh, okay.
Unseen by my mother. And so here we were coming across the country, and just was quite an adventure. And we ran into a guy that he knew from the work that he did. We'd met him a few times, but hadn't made quite the impression. And he joined us in Yellowstone Park and drove the rest of the way with us.
What kind of car was this? How many people were in this car?
Oh, no. We had a car for my mom, a car for my dad.
Ooh,
he had a car. And it seems to me my aunt and uncle came with us as
So
well.
road tripping.
Caravan.
Like Caravan.
Oh,
yeah, Caravan. Yes.
It was nuts. I mean, I can't imagine.
Where'd you sleep at night?
Hotels,
Hotels,
motels,
Oh, okay.
It wasn't camping.
Right. Yeah, that
My
didn't
mother,
seem
the
their
Four
speed.
Seasons was camping.
It was a convoy.
There wasn't one of the Four Seasons.
She
in
needed
those
a
days.
bathroom. She needed her own bed. There's no way.
Yeah, exactly. Don't even think you're going to do this any other way.
I mean, listen, she's smart. She set her standards.
oh,
You know.
definitely. And she came from real poverty. She came from real poverty. One of the reasons my grandmother did not go with him when he got a national level arbitrator's job, the unions were just kind of getting started. And so he was coming in, as a representative of the United States government. I don't know how he got that job. Anyway, so
This is about your mom living in poverty?
yeah, he was a gambler. So there's another part of your background
my gosh.
you don't know about.
Gambler, bigamy, abandonment.
Well, I mean, and he was such a gambler that he gambled away the family furniture.
Oh,
He gambled.
jeez.
I mean, all of a sudden,
You're sitting on the couch, and all of a sudden it's being taken away.
I don't know how dramatic it was, but it went from bad to worse.
But you were saying like her family had a lot of money though, or was
Other parts of her family.
Yeah, not her family, but like her extended family.
Yes, and they were very condescending because you didn't get divorced in those days. No, thank you. So I think they must have gotten divorced. I think it was announced in the paper.
Oh, so
Their
maybe,
divorce?
maybe not bigamy.
Yeah.
So
I think it was published and there was no contest. Nobody made any objection, so it went through. And his second wife, which I don't know how long later that was, she would send them lovely cards and stuff, and they thought, well, I don't want to hear from you.
Oh, jeez.
you're we love our mom.
Were there half brothers and sisters then?
No, they never had any children.
Oh, okay.
And there's a picture, I think I told you last time, there's a picture of my mom and her father sitting on the beach when my mom's an adult.
Right.
So they had some kind of ongoing relationship that I don't understand.
And it amazes me that my impression of her is that she was so fancy. That,
Well,
that,
you brought up last week the fact that she and her sister were out one day and my mom found $5 or something, which in those days was a fortune. And they went out to lunch.
yeah.
In a
Wait, how old
restaurant.
was she when this
In
happened?
their teens.
In their teens.
But you're talking equivalent of finding like $50. I mean, something that could have fed the family for the week.
Yeah, absolutely.
And instead, they went and split a sandwich at a restaurant or
Yeah.
something, is my
Yeah.
recollection of the
Jeez.
story.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
we now have to do correction. So not bigamy, officially divorce.
Yeah.
And not abandonment, if still seeing her father as an adult.
Yeah.
In defense of a
Okay.
kid,
But definitely gambling.
in defense of a
We
kid,
added gambling.
I'll say this: in defense of any kid finding cash,
Free money.
the memory of the single visit to McDonald's that you and your brother got to go on, and we got Sundays, and we told no one. I don't think that ever happened. Because I definitely pocketed the money. I didn't spend it on John. But I'm saying, like, if
Sorry,
you took your
John.
sister out to lunch one single time, we're talking about that 100 years later.
Yeah.
Ish.
Well, listen.
I'm not kidding. Like 100 years later, we're talking about that story.
Yeah.
And we don't know what you ate on a weekly basis. So
No.
that it didn't go to the family coffer, fine. I'd rather have the story. You lived, so it worked out.
And we all inherited liking to go out to lunch. And believe me, Rosie and I have stories we'll recall later at a later time. We're probably not the greatest tippers, and I'm sure the Hamburger Hamlet on Topanga and Ventura was never thrilled to see us walking in. And we'd like a table in the garden area with the bamboo chairs. They're probably like, get out,
You two.
But there you go. So it's all in our DNA. So you're on the road trip coming west.
Road trip. So it's your mom, your dad, 5 kids, and now this man.
A caravan.
And
Multiple
a canary.
cars. And a canary.
A canary.
I just thought of that.
That's like a song lyric.
Joseph had a canary.
The caravan and the canary coming to California.
We took
Wow.
everything, the kitchen sink, and the canary.
Anyway, the canary didn't make it.
Oh, gee.
Did it? Wait, Joe, God. Well, we can't have a whole song based off of that. Mom, way to bury the lead. Eddie and I were writing lyrics to a
And
whole
the canary
song.
died.
Died or escaped?
No, it
no.
If
Liz,
I saw the
obviously-
Yellowstones, I'd be like,
Liz,
woo, out of here.
Obviously, they make it across country, and the show is about a ghost canary that
Oh,
lives. It's just like, where's
yeah.
that tweeting coming from? Dang it,
It
ghost
flew
canary.
next to the car the whole way.
No, the canary.
up.
The canary was underhydrated.
Oh,
Well,
geez.
Oh, Lord.
we went through.
Boy, Mom,
Canary-
sadly,
canary
wait
jerky.
a minute, Mom. That is another inherited trait. Rosie and her parakeet history. Oh my God,
Rosemary's
Sorry,
spelled,
we
unfortunately,
could not
or
get
di-
off on a tangent. But our sister Rosemary's history with pets is somewhat notorious in the family. Parakeets did not. I remember her literally, we were leaving for camp, and she went up to say goodbye to Jerry. I think it was she had a Tom and Jerry, and she lifted up the, because he covered them at
cover.
night. And one of them died, and she looked at me, and I looked at her, and I'm like, "We gotta leave for camp. We just got back up and left."
Oh, no. What?
I mean, oh my gosh, that is. awful, but obviously long heritage of history of not
Of
doing well
sad dying
with little
parakeets
birds. Oh,
and
God.
canaries.
It was a very pretty canary. I can see it in my mind's eye right now.
Oh, wow.
And
Oh my gosh,
Joseph-
how annoying though! In the car, you're driving along, in the back of the car the whole time.
Well, it didn't bother me. She was pretty.
Wait, what was
little tweet.
what was, I got to get a clearer picture. Who was in what car? How was that broken up?
Well, if you were smart, you went with my dad because he had a station wagon. It really was pre-station wagon, I think. It wasn't quite, luxuriously large. And only the two of us would go, and we'd read, and we'd talk to each other. The annoying twins went with my mother. So 2-year-olds in a car for 3 weeks.
Wait, so when you
And
say
the
the
car
two of
stayed
us,
assembled, which is impressive.
Oh, right.
just to clarify, you're saying the two of us, that's you and
Joseph.
Joseph, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Well,
I
listen,
don't think your dad is
we're-
reading while driving.
Well,
But, okay.
actually,
Well, he might have. God, when he would drive
got
us around
skills.
as kids, he was alarming and scary.
Well,
You don't need seatbelts, blah, 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 and then you're like sliding all over the place.
He learned, when cars were new practically. And the best thing to do was to drive down the center of the road.
Oh, God.
Because you could see the center line and then you'd be aligned correctly.
Well, and actually,
Now you'd just be dead.
but actually, there was a time where there weren't like lane markers on the outside, so
That's right.
you would drive on the center because you wouldn't know where the
gee.
freaking edge of the road was.
Yep.
Of course, that
Crazy.
changed, and then we're talking about mid 70s Woodland Hills. Not that problem.
Yeah, he was
You're just
just a
driving in the
wild
middle.
man behind the wheel.
I can barely envision your mom driving though.
Well, she didn't. There's a great story behind that. She heard about the Sacred Heart. And so she went to a lecture about it, and she got all riled up like, this is going to be so wonderful. We're going to dedicate our home to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And so she told my dad, and my dad said, I'm making a really ugly face. He says, I've never seen one that I like. And they were kind of mopey and very sentimental.
What do you mean by
like
that?
a picture or a statue?
Yeah, picture, statue, whatever it was. It just wasn't something you'd want as an art object in your house. So he wasn't too fond of the whole
What
idea.
is the Sacred Heart? Describe it for a second.
Well, the one in my living room is the one they got. It's about 9 inches high or so. And this one looks quite austere. And he's just kind of standing there.
So it's Jesus.
Yeah, and you can see his heart, and you're supposed to realize that his heart is on fire with love for you. So he said to my mother, he was one for this. And no wonder they stayed married, I'll tell you, because they were a match. Or what would I say? Equal to each other.
So she gets inspired by this and then wants to buy a statue or something.
Or a picture or whatever. And my father says, I haven't seen one I like. I don't think I want to do that. And so she said, what if I find one you really like? So he says, well, go ahead, thinking like the long story that we'll put off till another time of your first wedding dress. He said, just bring me home something and, I'll just veto it and that'll be the end of that story. Anyway, so she found one she liked. And
Where was this just in the
Boston.
timeline? Oh, in Boston. So this is early.
And so she went to I don't know where she went, but anyway, she found this statue and she took my dad to see it. And he said, I really like that.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure his plan was just to reject all of them.
Oh,
so
yeah.
he didn't ever have to
Yeah, so
deal
he
with
didn't
it.
have to deal with it. And so he said, but it's not big enough.
Oh.
So my mother said, oh, so they got a hold of the person that had imported it and made a special order to have one carved that was larger. And then my dad's out of town for X number of weeks, and it comes in. And my mother had done hardly any driving at all. Just, to the grocery store at the end of the street.
But if you're going to pick up something that's Jesus, then you're fine. You can go and pick up Jesus.
Jesus, take the wheel. Original version.
Really, it was. Because she was a nightmare driving anyway.
Oh, geez.
And the import company was down on the docks.
Oh, wow.
And that's
So,
where it came in.
sure.
And since it was already ordered, it wasn't going to go out to any store. They didn't make provisions for that in those days. So she had to drive to not only downtown Boston, but to the docks
Oh, Lord.
to pick up the statue. And So she did, unbelievably. And she gets home, and this beautiful statue that she had of the Blessed Mother, which was in the entry foyer that I told you about with the beautiful, floor and the winding staircase going up and the fireplace and everything. She was standing over the fireplace in the foyer. And my grandmother, who was living with us, I think I did make that clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
But sort of an off and on.
Yeah.
But yes.
Anyway, she had been dusting for some reason, and she knocked the statue over. And it was unique. It was china, and it was absolutely gorgeous. And it was pretty good size.
I mean, that sounds like the Christmas
story. I know. I was
Like,
just thinking of the lamp.
I was just
I've
dusting the
accidentally
lamp.
broken the. No, but
Oh, she thought this was it.
this was
she
a
gonna
beloved
be-
object in the home.
She
This
was
is the
gonna
last
be
time I get
disowned.
to stay at this house because I just ruined my stay.
Yeah,
ruining
and she
this.
just figured she was going to be disowned.
Oh,
So
geez.
my mother gets home, and my grandmother fesses up.
It's the same day?
Same day.
Jesus was like, I'm coming.
Get out of the way.
You know what my mom said?
What?
Mary may way for Jesus.
Oh, for her son. Oh.
Aw.
It just was beautiful. It was like this horror story that turned out to be miraculous.
A sweet ending to it. So that yeah.
And so, of course, grandmother was not in any trouble. And that was there and always in a prominent place in our home. And Joseph got it when my parents died. This
Oh,
is
nice.
way jump forward.
Your oldest brother.
My oldest brother had the statue after.
So how tall was it?
It's the one in the living room.
I don't
over
even
the
know what you're
fireplace.
talking. Where? What do you? It is.
It's right over the fireplace.
Okay.
Center stage, hello, when you come in.
I mean, I
Anyway.
might be outing myself as a very non-practicing Catholic, but I have never. I can't even
Taken
picture
that
it at
in.
all.
Here's
Like,
the thing. I realized this about myself today because someone had told me this a couple years ago. I have deleted a lot of stuff that's on the walls in the house that's super, super religious. There are 20 crucifixes hanging in that house. I promise you. I know. I can
I mean,
tell you where
you're
3 of them
probably
are.
right. I
The rest
can't
of them,
even think
it's a
of it.
blank wall. I ignore it. So I'm pretty sure that's what's
So-
happening. You
Yeah.
go to the living room and you're just like, I'm not looking at that.
How tall is it? I mean, I'm just
She
trying
said
to.
like 9 inches, like a foot or so.
about like that.
Oh,
That's
okay.
like a foot.
Okay.
A foot and
All
a
right.
half
Isn't
almost.
that
What you're
about-
indicating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next time I
That's a
come to your
foot.
house, I'm going to be like,
I mean,
It's a
"Whoa."
little smaller than that.
It is funny because for sure, Ed, I think that is happening to me. There's a lot of, Mom, you're a very high practicing Catholic. You're super into it. It's all over the house. I just don't even register it anymore.
Yep.
Really, it's
Yeah,
just there and part of the.
It's
the
part of
mom
the pattern.
it. Yeah,
It's pattern. It's the pattern on the walls at Mom's house.
interesting. Okay, so
Anyway,
Okay, wait a minute. So now we've got the caravan.
wait a minute. I got to finish.
Oh, Lord.
I got to finish the statue story.
there's more Jesus story.
So,
Go on.
Joseph gets it when my parents
right.
die.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't practicing Catholic either. I don't know if you knew that, but he wasn't. It wasn't good to be gay
No,
and
yeah,
Catholic.
I would
It was
imagine.
horrible in the 60s. And
Yeah.
he just removed himself. But he
For his
was-
own protection.
He was very faithful, though, to what he believed.
He was spiritual still.
Anyway, so when he died, which was quite a number of years ago, somehow, I guess it was my sister said, "Do you want the statue of the Sacred Heart?" So finally, the one thing I wanted from their household stuff
Made it back to you.
made it back
Oh,
to
that's
me.
nice.
It was nice. Anyway, I think maybe it was
But things that did not make the full journey. Let's get back on to the road trip
You're hopeful.
to California in the caravan. But your little parakeet, or what was it?
No,
Canary.
It was a
Canary.
What's the difference? Okay, don't even
Well,
answer. Just
canaries
keep
are
going.
Send
Oh,
the canary down the coal mine.
for
so
sure.
it did not make it
it's
to
a small-
California.
It's a
Okay.
sensitive small bird.
So it took you over 3 weeks across the country.
And we came in not too long after the 4th of July. That was in Utah. And then we went. I don't have really many memories of that trip because most of it, we went to Mount Rushmore. We went to all the major places.
Big spots.
When you come the northern route. And it was wonderful. I remember seeing Old Faithful go off. I mean, I can remember seeing that. It was pretty amazing. And seeing buffaloes. I mean, that
Oh,
was
wow.
quite
You're not
amazing.
blaying that with our trip, right? Because I remember seeing Old Faithful.
Yeah,
Field.
you took us. I forget what year, but we did a
that
family
on
trip.
purpose because
Right.
that was such an amazing thing.
Yep.
Anyway, so we get
family
in.
trip. not including everybody because it was before John was born, right?
Yeah.
Was I like toddler?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you were like maybe 4. You were a little guy.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
All right, go on.
We found out about your eyes. But anyway.
Yeah, because you were squinting in all the pictures from that trip. I remember.
No, I'm just super cute.
You
It
were-
was a
you
move.
were-
I was winking at you and
you were
like
super,
hold it,
super cute.
hold it, wink.
Just the cutest.
Yeah.
Focus.
Now listen, Killmonds are known for having their eyes closed. I'm gonna be the guy who has one eye closed. Oh, actually, I can't see. Actually,
Anyway, so I remember, the restaurant that I'm going to refer to. When you come down the hill to the Pacific Coast Highway, and there's a restaurant that looks like a ship.
Gladstones.
No, it looks like an actual boat. It's the head of the boat coming in from the canyon when you're coming out to...
Oh,
I don't know what the name of it is.
Yeah.
We had lunch there.
nice.
I
Welcome
never
to
forgot
California.
that.
Yeah.
And then we went up the hill into Pacific Palisades, and there was this,
Stunner of a house.
well, in a center of a neighborhood. And I hated it
Oh, no. What?
because it had all palm trees out in front. You can't climb a palm tree. You can't have lunch in the branches of a palm tree.
Oh, my God. That's so funny.
And it had, kind of a wall, and then, it was recessed from the street, and it was Spanish style. So it had the orange corrugated looking,
yeah, the tile roof. Mm-hmm.
and it was white stucco. And I thought, what in the world is this?
Oh, my gosh.
from
how funny.
from the 100-year-old house in the
Yeah,
East Coast,
Very
now
traditional
to
house.
like
Yeah.
Yeah.
this probably new,
Architecturally
modern,
very different,
newer style.
Oh,
house.
yeah. And when my dad had bought the house, it had a complete house lot next door
Oh, right.
on which there were rose bushes and beautiful hedges and a bird aviary and fruit trees
Oh, wow.
and grass, period.
Oh, well.
It was
an
like
undeveloped lot.
No, a very developed
Well, I
lot.
mean,
it was
you know.
beautiful. I don't know what to make of that.
And he bought that property as well.
Yeah.
It was a 2-parter.
So he bought the 2 lots.
Because he paid cash, he got a fabulous deal on it. He got it for under $50,000.
Oh my gosh, you know what that is worth today?
It is in the millions. It's so,
Millions. It's probably like worth 15 million today.
Oh well, I don't
Oh
know.
my goodness, where's our
The bird
inheritance?
aviary goes for $1,000 a bird.
Oh my gosh, that poor bird, the canary, would have had all these friends and a place to live.
I know.
And it didn't make it to California. It had its own aviary waiting for it.
Anyway,
Oh my gosh, the irony.
Or the ghost bird lived happily in the birdie. Okay, whatever.
anyway, I remember probably from that particular configuration of the land that they bought, that Mother often sent me out to do things. I think I was very annoying to my mother because she was kind of sedentary. You remember that always was true, and a reader, and really liked her alone time. And I was all over her, I think.
You were a busy little girl,
Yeah,
I
I'd be
imagine.
in and out every time you turned around or whatever. And so she'd say, "Go out and cut some roses for the house,
Oh.
and don't denude the plants,"
What's
which
that
means
mean?
taking off too many of the roses so that it looked barren when you were done. So I became,
I literally did that this morning, and I did not denude my rose bushes.
Is that like a real term, or are you guys making that up? Oh, it's like real thing?
it's a
I've
real
never
word.
heard it.
like when your roses bloom and you want to bring in cuttings for your house, you purposely do not. Our sister Rosemary had a house that had an amazing side yard just full of roses that bloomed. And you want to make sure you left, like a presentation for the front of your house
okay.
along with what you'd bring inside.
Yeah. So, and then she'd tell me to arrange them. That
She was
took
just
me a
keeping you
long
busy.
time.
How old were you?
know it.
11?
I was 11, 12. I wasn't too old when they decided that they were going to put a pool in. So they put in a pool that was 18 by 42 feet.
That's
what
big.
that is humongous.
And then the land...
That's like Olympic size.
I know. And the land wasn't exactly even in the second lot. So they built up a whole deck patio area at one end of it. I mean, people used to come by to go swimming, uninvited.
Uninvited.
Did they think it was a public pool in the neighborhood?
No, they were friends, weren't they lucky? And they were my parents, My mother didn't have to do much about this, but they were very hospitable. And Dad would, barbecue, and people were staying for dinner all the time.
Oh, wow.
And they had made a friend on the East Coast early on through the Maryknoll fathers. So the Maryknolls had a big, I don't know what to call it,
What is that?
Campus.
A group or?
It's a bunch of priests and nuns, but through a priest who was out here. The one back east told him, visit these people. And he was a fundraiser for the order. And he also was in charge of being hospitable to all the young seminarians or the priests coming back from Second World War and being in prison and all kinds of things. And there they were sitting at our dinner table, telling stories. It was just like, you just...
Wait, the priest was?
Yeah, he would bring them over for dinner because it was like having your private country club.
Got it.
Oh,
And
jeez.
they were always so, hospitable to them. We'd have these lovely dinners on a moment's notice. And Joseph and I got to serve.
Well, who would cook? Did you have a cook?
I don't remember all the time, but most of the time my mother had a maid, a live-in
Somebody
maid.
helping.
And one of the reasons was when the twins were 2, she fell down the stairs and broke her back.
What?
Your mom did?
Yeah.
How severe was that?
Horrible. I mean, she had to be wearing a big brace that, started at about her hips and, covered her whole upper body.
For
And
how long?
she was well enough to come out when we came. So, probably for a year she was in the brace. But
Wait, and you said when we came out. So this happened in Boston, she broke her back?
Yes. And so
Oh.
we started having live-in mates at that point.
Oh.
It's a very strange experience.
Oh, wow, that is. And so, I mean, did she have, I don't
Wait,
remember
where
having...
did she fall? In the 100-year-old house, or where did she fall?
No, in the Milton house.
Oh, in the Milton house.
We only lived there for 2 years, so
Wow.
yeah.
How did that happen, or who found her?
Oh, well, it was no surprise. We all heard her.
Oh, geez.
It was terrible. Anyway,
What do you mean it's terrible? I mean, how did you...
it was scary. I mean, you heard her, banging down the stairs and then crying and, it was...
back then when an ambulance had come and taken her?
That part I don't remember.
Okay.
You must have
We
been
had
young.
a lot of relatives, as I pointed out. So anything that happened that was big and disturbing, we'd all be dispersed to relatives.
Oh.
And I had
You
this,
were sent off to stay with somebody.
and they sent me off usually, almost always, to stay with my dad's older sister, Harriet,
Harriet.
which is where
That's a new name.
Therese got that as a middle name. Harriet.
Oh, really?
I used to call
Your
her,
sister, Therese.
I used to call her Teehee.
Oh,
That's a cute
Anyway.
name. I've
yeah.
never heard that.
And she was married to, what was his first name? I don't remember. But his last name was von Kessler, and he'd been a count
Oh.
in Germany before.
We have royalty in our blood.
soap opera
Forget the
gets
bigamy,
even
forget
better?
the abandonment, forget the gambling. Now we're on to royalty.
Yeah.
Okay,
no,
now...
now we've got royalty.
Sorry,
Exactly.
I can
This
tell
is
Mark...
fantastic.
No, we're not. No, there's no white trash. There's royalty. Van
Kessler.
Kessler.
Yeah.
A vampire hunter, Van Kessler. No, just kidding.
I think they used to call him Vaughn.
Vaughn.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, which really was part of his name, his last name. Anyway,
So that's Harriet's husband.
and they never had any children. They had dachshunds. Thank you. I was never too impressed. And
Jeez, what do we get?
Neither-
Dotson.
Neither were the
so
Dotsons.
I would go
Yeah,
over there
seriously.
and I would be the queen.
Oh.
And we would have. And
But
she-
would they split you guys all up?
Oh, yeah.
Like, so you'd all go to different places. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So you're definitely the only one getting attention from,
Oh,
yeah.
good deal. Thank you very much. And they used to go to.
You are so like Lauren. I mean, Lauren will come and stay with me, or
Lauren, one of Jenny's daughters.
one of our sister's daughters, who is only in the 2nd grade, but she will want to come over because she knows Auntie Liz will just give her a lot of just focused
audience.
attention.
Yeah.
Oh
definitely.
my
Attention can be
goodness.
real good.
Yes.
Well, Harriet used to grow raspberries.
Oh my God, you love raspberries and cream. Is that where that came from?
Yes.
I love raspberries.
And she would come up and tell me, well, it'll be time for breakfast in about 15 minutes, so get up and dress. No, don't get dressed. Just wear your bathrobe and come down. We would sit outside the back of the house, which was a beautiful area, and they had a lovely table out there. And we would have our breakfast out under the trees
Oh, wow.
in our bathrobes.
I thought you were going to say
I don't want to go home.
I thought
Forget
you were
it.
going to say you would go out and pick raspberries for breakfast.
She had done that already.
Oh.
She was quite...
She wasn't putting you to work like your mom.
Oh, never. I mean,
She's the queen.
I had, I got to be a little princess over there. Anyway,
So when you so your mom had broken her back and you moved to California. How many bedrooms were in this Spanish-style house in Pacific Palisades?
okay, 4 upstairs, I think. The master bedroom was a suite in the front of the house, and it had you'd love this, they had a dressing, and I don't even know what you call it. It had a dressing table for my mother and part of the closet, and then there was another closet, and then there was a bathroom down behind it that was
jeez.
private. How did I ever put up with all of you in the bathroom?
I don't know.
Anyway, and then there was 2 other bedrooms. They were interconnected, I think. So there were 4 upstairs plus 2 bonus rooms upstairs. And downstairs there was a whole maid suite, with the bathroom and the bedroom and the hallway before it came into the kitchen. And then there was another bathroom in the entry area. So it was huge, really.
Wow.
They had a telephone room.
What?
They had a telephone room. You could go into this room, close the door, and make your phone calls.
Oh, wow. Like a little phone booth in the
They had
house.
a formal living room, a formal dining room, sort of off the kitchen, lovely eating area that wasn't either of those, a big den that was all, unfortunately, tile floors, and then a huge bar.
Oh, that's...
Does this house still exist? You said it did, right?
Oh, it does, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you furnish it? I mean, you weren't transferring the furniture from
Dad,
Boston?
It was all tied to the tops of the cars. No, I'm just kidding.
No. Dad went to estate sales, and they got Persian rugs and all kinds of stuff, by
His energy level just sounds unbelievable.
out the front door and the back door.
Fully
through the roof.
caffeinated.
He didn't drink coffee.
Oh.
He was just going on
He was all the time going,
some
going,
kind
going.
of motor.
Guess
Guess
my
where
memory
I got
of him.
my ADHD and my... Well,
Yeah.
You look back on how you guys grew up. I mean, I was working. I was doing volunteer work. I was taking care of the house. I mean, how did I ever do that? I have no idea. But that was just kind of the energy level was built in.
Now, where
I
did you
didn't
then
get my mother's.
Yeah, you're
No.
much more like your dad for sure.
I don't think I realized that until I was maybe in my 40s.
Oh.
Yeah, that makes sense, actually.
Yeah.
Because I remember were you going to therapy about your father at some point? And you thought he was a workaholic, right?
Oh, he was.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, you couldn't get through to him emotionally. Closed door. Interesting. Anyway, so where were we?
Well, I was just going to say, so they built this family pool in the lot, being basically the country club in the neighborhood.
We had a party at that house where Corpus Christi Parish was, doing a fundraiser.
Was that your parish? Were
Is that
you
the local? Yeah.
Okay.
500 people at the house.
Wow.
And the Girl Scouts did a aquatic display.
Oh, my God.
Raffles. They had an outdoor and indoor bar. I mean, it was just endless. And I look back and then I think, well, of course, everybody in the parish knew them.
Right.
They were very much about being part of it and helping with the community. So,
Did you have visitors from back east quite often?
whenever they felt like it.
Yeah, I would think so because,
was
winter is
ideal.
hard. So why not come to Southern California?
Was there room
also-
in the house? I mean,
There
how
were
were you
those
guys?
extra rooms upstairs
Gotcha.
that actually were, probably about the size of a motel room. There were 2 of them off the upstairs hallway down toward the 4th bedroom. And
Well, who
there were
stayed with who? Like in the house? Did you all have your own rooms? Doesn't sound like it. If they were leaving rooms open for guests, basically.
No, the extra rooms were for guests.
Gotcha.
But you only, just your sister Therese. So who'd you share a room with?
I shared a room with my sister, and Peter and Richard shared a room, I think, and then Joseph was on his own. Anyway, it was.
And so did you, obviously going way back, Peter and his medical issues, then were you dealing with them here with, Children's Hospital or UCLA? What were you? Where was
that? Nobody was very aware of UCLA at that point. So he did okay. He got through. He was losing his hearing as a young child, which my father noticed. And he said, I think his hearing's off. And my mother said, no, it's not. Watch this. He stood behind him and he said, who wants to go out for ice cream? He didn't even react. He didn't hear it. And he did a couple of other things. And she goes, oh, what's going on? And it was adenoids. And then he had all that interfered along with not letting him talk when he was little.
Right.
So he really had issues in that area.
Because no one was allowed to speak to him when he was an infant because they were trying for his cleft palate. So they were trying to have that develop properly. And they, for some reason, thought him not speaking. Therefore, if you didn't speak to him, he didn't speak back to you, correct?
Yes. And when he was 2, they felt he was ready to have the operation to close the cleft palate. And they brought him home. And this is unbelievable, but it's true. He had to wear a vest to bed that had slats in the sleeves so he couldn't bend his arms, and then he was supposed to be tied to the sides of the crib.
Why?
Oh,
so he wouldn't touch
So we wouldn't touch it.
Oh.
Which now we know enough about children that they can absolutely be told, don't touch that.
Yeah.
Leave that alone. And they will do it.
Well, because it would have hurt.
Right. Exactly. They
So
would.
what did he do? He comes
So he's
home.
being tied down to his bed.
Yeah, really.
Good Lord.
Anyway, so he moves. He's in his bed. It's wonderful. We go looking for him. He'd been home from the hospital some period of time, still getting this treatment. He'd figured out how to untie the thing and gone downstairs and made himself some toast, which would be the worst thing you could eat because it's so abrasive.
Right.
And he had toast crumbs all over his face.
Oh, jeez.
When my mom found him, it was like, and he came through it all right. But
Now, so you then arrived at what almost be close to not starting junior high, but
sixth grade.
Yes, sixth grade. So junior high. Where did you attend junior high?
Corpus Christi.
Okay, so that was the Catholic grade school that went up to 8th grade?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you imagine? Joseph comes out, he's in 8th grade, and they're all, they all know who's who and who's the smartest and whatever. And Joseph shows up, and he just blows them all out of the water.
He was very intelligent, wasn't he, your brother?
He went to high school on scholarship.
Right.
Even. Amazing. And took a bus to Loyola from the Palisades.
He went to Loyola High School?
He did. It's in downtown, actually.
Yeah, no.
Not a nice area, but the school has maintained very well.
Oh, well, it's very reputable. Here in Los Angeles, it's a private boys' high school.
Run by Jesuits.
Is it still all boys, or is
Yes.
it?
Yeah.
Really?
And it is very hard to get into. But there's always talk, like my son is graduating 8th grade, and there's talk about, and I'm sure there probably is a few boys going to Loyola. But, you're talking about downtown LA. So to get there to commute, and I've always thought, like, I would never want to not be able to get my child if some SHAT hit the fan and he's all the way in downtown Los Angeles. I mean, that is not easy to get your kid out of if something goes wrong.
If somebody works down there, then that's not
it changes the possibilities.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to drive them there and they're going to be.
But I never knew he went to Loyola. That's crazy.
Yeah. And then he got a scholarship to Loyola University.
Oh. And Loyola in Chicago?
No, here.
Oh, Loyola before it was Loyola Marymount.
Yeah.
It merged. Marymount was a separate school. They merged at some point. I don't know.
So
LMU was just Loyola.
Yeah, and it was just males.
And I think Marymount was all girls.
Yes.
And the merger was then, you know.
Got it. Now, so you then arrive in 6th grade.
With a Boston accent and a vocabulary that's the fruit of having an older brother who reads voluminously and my mother, and they both wanted to do that more than anything. So I better learn how to read. So I did. So I had this ridiculous vocabulary for a sixth grader.
With the Boston accent.
It was not funny.
You
Did
were
you have a
wicked
thick, but
cool.
like what kind of accent? Because you don't have one now. I don't remember whenever.
This is the little saying from Boston accent. I wonder where my R's have gone. They seem to have disappeared. I better go looking for them. And then there's some other thing that fools around with the R's. So R's were always in the wrong place. Disappeared. Yeah. Wicked.
Wicked.
That was another stage of life, but yeah.
That was more
that was more our cousins later.
Well, and then, just go find any old films of JFK. He had a Boston accent.
Right. And Catholic. And so you arrived, were you able to make friends and assimilate?
I got rid of that accent as fast as I could.
Okay.
My mother was quite chagrined. And
I don't remember her having a Boston accent.
oh, she didn't finally. But
Yeah, not
when
really.
she first came out here, she thought it was fine. Why would you want to get rid of that? I mean, and the kids I went to school with, I mean, everything was cool, and they had a few buzzwords, and vocabulary was really limited. I mean, I'd say something, and then I'll look around like, what? And the teacher would be looking at me like, what? And I would think, what's the matter?
Oh, geez.
It was weird. Anyway.
But did you make friends
Oh,
and
yeah.
settle in? I mean, you
Well-
had that pool to entice everybody.
Yeah. So here's Therese and Richard. They're 3. So they go to kindergarten at 5 at Corpus Christi. Guess who they had? Sister Miguel.
Oh, a sister you know now.
Well, she was at St. Mel when you were there.
Yeah,
How old is
I
Sister
have?
Miguel?
I thought
think-
she was 105
Yeah.
when I was a kid.
Yeah, I thought
Right.
didn't I have her for first grade or something at St. Mel?
Absolutely always asks for you.
What?
Always asks, how's Katherine? How's her
Oh,
husband? Knows about your kids.
What? That blows my
Does she
mind.
follow you on Facebook?
Like,
and you don't
first of
know
all,
it?
sorry.
No, she
So
doesn't.
just to clarify, she is still alive?
97.
97 years
Whoa.
old.
Yeah.
Well, did she wear a
moly.
habit back then?
Well, she had one of those kind of habits. Everything was like, just
Yeah, nuns
squished
used to
in,
cover up
and
their
then it
hair.
was down to her eyebrows, and it was horrible looking, and you couldn't tell how old anybody was.
Right,
And their whole
exactly.
hair was covered. And I remember the first day I came to St. Mel's, and you were going into first, and I hear this voice. It was the first year. Our kids didn't get in the first year we moved here. So the second year, when you were old enough to go to first grade,
Right, because James and William went, where did they go for a year or so? St. Francis?
No, Our Lady
Is
of
that right?
Grace.
Our Lady of Grace. Yeah, it's
Right.
right next door to Crespi where Frank taught.
Right.
How convenient!
I forgot
was
about that whole
I didn't
thing.
I didn't have to do any chauffeuring. Anyway, so I hear this voice and I think that sounds like Sister Miguel.
That's
Could-
amazing.
And I thought, one of these fast little things that happens in your mind. And I thought she was 100 all those years ago. And I turn around, sure enough, it was her.
Wow.
Of
That's
course,
crazy.
She remembered my parents. She remembered where we
At that
lived.
point, she's only in her 60s. I mean,
Amazing. Anyway, it's just sweet, and she's just a dear, dear, dear woman. Anyway,
so she was your teacher when you arrived in the 6th grade?
No, the
she
twins.
taught the twins.
Oh, taught the twins.
and
I'm
they did kindergarten 2 years.
Because they
Well,
were so young.
But that's normal today.
No, because they had their own language.
What?
Twins,
They could just communicate with each other.
and it was, made up. Well, like you, Elizabeth. Remember?
Oh, yeah. Nomi Kamanichi meant something like, give me a chicken wing.
No. I remember,
Dirty Conky Portalacha.
which meant, Catherine, please pour me the chocolate
No, it
milk or
didn't.
something.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Katherine, for the chocolate.
Derny
say the-
Conka. Thank you, Catherine. Catherine is Conka. That is your new name now. Catherine, no me Conka.
Wait a minute. Was there anybody in our household that spoke a second language? And now you have nipped my second language bud. If you just allowed me to develop, I would have had a whole second
Well,
language.
what was hilarious was Frank was taking classes for speech and debate and so forth at L.A. City College, not City College. I don't know what it was called in those days. Anyway, and he said, do you realize that we just all heard that and we all knew what it meant?
Oh, yeah. hmm We understood your
it
made-up
sounds
language.
a little like, Danish mixed with Derny what was
Lacha.
Lacha. It's a little
Well,
Spanish.
Lacha is-
You're speaking
Little
Swedish
Span-
chef from
Yeah.
the Muppets.
Exactly.
You know,
Oh,
we
yes.
did have some Spanish mates because I think when I had William. We had people living in. Mm-hmm. We had I don't know where they lived. I think they lived in the travel trailer. We had a travel trailer back then.
No, what?
A long time ago.
That's the living accommodations.
They
Wow.
Airbnb was
They
cheap
thought
back in
that
the day.
was great.
Okay.
Are you kidding? That was way better than they had.
Okay, well, wait a minute. Let's go back. So now you're 10 years old. You started 6th grade here.
Sorry, just to point out what you just said there, right?
Yeah.
10 years old starting 6th grade. It's not how that works. She arrived in 4th grade. Eventually she got to 6th grade.
No,
But,
I arrived and I was a year plus ahead of everybody.
okay.
Younger.
Sounds like a great story. Continue.
Okay, well, that's good to know. I mean, I
A year
kind
plus ahead, Boston accent, huge vocabulary.
a voluminous vocabulary. Well, that is good clarification, John, because I did kind of think, I know I'm right on this. 10 years old is young for 6th grade. So then that puts you kind of apart from everybody right from the get-go.
Well, plus which I was never going to be really tall, so
Yeah, you were
I was
small.
really small. And I was uncoordinated because we never had PE till I came out here. And I was like,
Why didn't you have PE, physical education?
they just didn't have it back east.
Oh, how
You got to learn on the
odd.
streets.
Yeah,
The rough streets of Beacon Hill.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Anyway.
Oh my gosh. Well, so then, listen. We've got to get into the next chapter of high school, aka your Sandy years.
Oh, I can't
That
wait.
wasn't high school. That was college.
Oh, okay.
even
Okay, then I
better.
want to know more about high school. But now that we've got you here to California and you're living in a palatial estate in Pacific Palisades with a bird
Ghost.
living with you,
In the aviary.
and now a pool that could be the country club of Pacific Palisades. It might be currently. We just don't know.
Oh, no. There's another chapter to this story.
Okay, well then I think
Let's put a pin in it for right now.
yeah, we'll pick it back up, people. With a lot to unpack here.
We're getting it. We're getting a lot. Okay, so thank you so much for coming in, Mom. That was awesome. We'll do it again. More to come here on Family Dynamics with a K. So thank you all for listening, and please like and subscribe and comment and give us 5 stars. And you can follow us on social media. That's also Family Dynamics with a K.
Leave a review, and we also have a Patreon.
Yes, we do. Also Family Dynamics with a K for Killmond.
I might want to get more into this great grandfather of ours and the royalty side. You know, I've got
Leave it to you.
I've got a lot to
Liz has
understand
got
here.
her agenda of what?
I went from, oh man, there's a huge white trash side of our family we don't know about, to now royalties.
Well, even this guy that was a gambler and, went off and his wife didn't go with him and stuff, he wasn't trash. He was
No.
working for the government in Washington.
Yeah, no, I'm only playing on those terms, but of course not. And that actually I don't even think is PC to say anymore. So there you go.
Yeah, I don't think you should. Liz, you're in big trouble.
yeah.
I'm going to coin the new phrase. It's a recycled family, not white trash. Because we're coming up with a whole new story.
Wow.
out of those
Yeah,
people.
wow.
those
Okay.
are stretch, but okay. All right.
Well, thank you all for listening. This has been Family Dynamics.
Bye.